God's people suffer. God's people suffer on a day-to-day. We see it and we can't even acknowledge it because it almost seems normal. God's people suffer, and God's people have been suffering for a very, very long time. And it's not that they don't pray. And it's not that they don't believe. Some even say it is because they sinned. And then now they are going through the karma of it. But then we get to realize that there is knowledge in place. And there is levels to knowledge, just like there is levels to ignorance. And we get to see that there are those who benefit from others living in ignorance. And so they even promote ignorance and foster environments for ignorance to thrive. And we wonder, why do God's people have to suffer? They pray, they believe, they read the scriptures, they fast, they look up, and they wonder, where will their hope come from? And when will all of this come to an end? My dear brothers and sisters, it is upon us. We have to take it upon ourselves to be very, very honest with ourselves. There is knowledge, and there is knowledge in abundance. There is knowledge that we can tap into that can bring about a complete halt to all of the nonsense that they have been proliferating all over the place. Gone are the days when we have to pick up sticks and machetes and guns and go after the oppressors. I mean, that is another means. We could do that if it has to get to that, right? But now we are saying we have to prove that we are now awakened within ourselves. This is the age of enlightenment indeed, my dear brothers and sisters. Let us not sleep on ourselves. Let us not allow ourselves to be subjected to suffering. Let us take it upon ourselves to dive deeper into this abundant knowledge and express ourselves in ways that would get the oppressor to realize that even they themselves have to take it upon themselves to do the inner work. Because apparently, a lot of these people whose minds are still given over to greed and all of these lower frequencies, they have not done the inner work. And as it is right now, we are at a point on this planet, it is very evident that there is a surging of energy. And not just any type of energy, but we're talking about energy that is cleansing, energy that is refining, energy that is bubbling and bringing forth the dirt. But not just bringing forth the dirt, but bringing forth the dirt that is eventually going to purify and make clean. The Bible referred to this as the birth pains. And we're getting to see it. It's very, very clear that we are going through a certain shaking. There's something that is happening in the spiritual atmosphere, and it is evidently reflecting in the physical dimension as we can see it very, very clearly. But we cannot deny the fact that God's people are suffering, and God's people have been suffering for a very, very long time. And it's not like they don't pray. It is not like they don't believe. It is not like they don't read their Bible. It is not like they are not looking forward to the promise. But then again, there is knowledge. my dear brothers and sisters, we ought to tap into some of this great, great, abundant knowledge and share it. I'm not talking about the knowledge that's going to bring about contention. I'm not talking about the knowledge that's going to bring about much more frustration. I'm talking about the knowledge that's going to get us to recognize the reality of who we truly are from the internal aspect. We now have to balance out the internal polarities. We now have to come to the inner balance. If we are to truly face the enemy, we're talking about the enemies of self, because we know that in the world today, there are those who don't like themselves, and this reflects in the way they interact with everybody else. If we are to truly face the enemies of self, we must know ourselves, right? And the goal is to bring about balance. That is the whole goal of it, because this planet thrives off of balance. Even when there is chaos, chaos only comes about to initiate balance. And this is the time. This is the time. We know that there are those who are working tirelessly to make sure that ignorance is thriving because they somehow maintain a certain favorable position. But for how long, right? But for how long? For how long, my dear brothers and sisters? You see, this planet is amazing. It accommodates each and every one of us. And we must be very, very grateful. And we must find a way to get along without stepping on each other's toes, in truth and in spirit. Like I said, the knowledge is here. We must take it upon ourselves to go within and do the inner work. We cannot just say live in the moment, but then we don't question the moments that are being established for us and the intentions and the motives behind it. You find yourself subjected in moments that you're giving off so much of your energy and it's not equating to what you're getting back in. And you're having these individuals who claim to be enlightened, quote unquote, who claim to be intelligent, and yet they're fostering and creating environments for their kind even to live in modes that would get you to scratch your head and wonder. And yet we're not really talking about it, you see. My dear brothers and sisters, it is the season. It is the time. We cannot be biting our tongue anymore. We must speak on that which truly matters from a spirit and physical level. I mean, wouldn't y'all agree? Like I said, gone are the days when we have to pick up sticks and go chasing after people. Let this be now an intellectual type of debate, like the Andrew Tates, like the Candaces. We can see how intellect is flourishing. Shout outs to Sadhguru and all of the great masters that are upon this planet today, pushing for higher intelligence to be made manifest. This is the time, my dear brothers and sisters. We should not have to feel like we need to stay down. For all the tools that we need to manifest the greatness that we are has always been in place. It has just been suppressed and hidden and kept in modes that we would not get to easily discover. And thanks to the internet, a lot of the knowledge is being brought forth, and we must tap into it if we truly want to be as liberated as we know we ought to be. Now is the time. I mean, what are we waiting for, right? If we would rather spend hours on the internet feeding our psyche with information that is just keeping us much more trapped in the bubble, then who do we blame? Who do we blame? Do we blame each other? Of course, that is the end goal. That is what the enemy wants. They constantly keep our minds warped up in this thought process of feeling like we have to be at odds. But when you truly get to tap into the knowledge that it gets you to rise above that dual field, because there's this field of duality that they keep playing, and we have to now take it upon ourselves to rise above it. Nobody is trying to be a threat, but they would perceive it to be that way because they know that once the masses rise within themselves to realize the divinity within them, then they now have to do the work. And they don't want to have to do the work. Like I said, this planet accommodates and favors righteousness. And for all of the madness that they're proliferating upon this planet, it is just for a due season. If you want to be entertained by it, go ahead and knock yourself out. But for some of us, we are pretty much even tired, indeed, in truth and in spirit, because it is not funny when you get to see others suffer, when you still are connected to the real self, not the ego self that they're trying to implant in us, but when you are connected to the reality of who you are and you see the system that they have put in place that does not work towards benefiting the all. And you would hear people say stuff like life isn't fair, but then the sun shines upon all of us, and that is very fair. So life could be fair if we start thinking in that dimension of thought. And you start to realize that there are hidden hands that are working on the grand board, my dear brothers and sisters. And we're not going to give them too much attention, because now is the time for us to focus on self. This is now the time to, rather than pay attention to the distraction, because that's exactly what they're cooking up, focus now on the inner self. They've done a whole lot to keep us warped up. It's going to take a whole lot for us to do the inner work. We're grateful for Yeshua. He did a lot of work for us, but we too have to do some work. That way we can meet him halfway and be able to face the madness when the time comes. So step on in within yourself and alchemize. Do the inner alchemy. It don't matter. You got to cut things off. You got to go in, cut off some of that music that they're projecting into your psyche. You know, you might have to shift off from watching some of those videos that they're projecting into your psyche. You might have to tell some of your family members, I hear you, but look, I got my own mind and I'm going in. You got to step up and stand up within yourself and do the inner work in silence. There's a whole lot that we're going to learn in silence, my dear brothers and sisters. And like I said, it is the time. We are not going to pay him any attention, because we give him power when we pay him attention. Now is the age of the Buddha. Now is the age of Yeshua. And we're seeing the manifestation within many great souls on this planet. They might not be vocal about it, but it is very, very evident. I think I'm going to go ahead and cap it at that. I didn't want to go too long with this video. I just wanted to encourage y'all, my dear brothers and sisters, to take it upon yourself. This is the time. Please, don't waste too much time. We still got that window. We still got the window. It's open. Go right on in and continue the great work. Continue the great inner work. For there is coming a time when you would see that all of that work was not in vain, in truth and in spirit. Much love, y'all. Stay blessed.